Okay, I'd like to call to order the July 25th, 2019 Plan and Zoning Board of Appeals meeting at 7 o'clock. Jen, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Dash.
Here.
Commissioner Kempa.
Here.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Here.
Commissioner Tamman.
Here.
Commissioner Patel is absent by prior notice. Commissioner Mellon.
Here.
And Commissioner Sayward.
Here. Okay, so we have a quorum this evening. The first item of business is consideration of the June 27th, 2019 PZBA meeting minutes. Are there any comments, changes, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Okay, if not, then do I have a motion to approve the June 27th PZBA minutes as presented?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Jen, roll call, please.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Aye.
Commissioner Sayward.
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon.
Aye.
Commissioner Kempa.
Aye.
Commissioner Tamman.
Aye.
Chairman Dash.
Aye. Okay, so we will, there's no old business this evening, so we will move to our first case of new business, which is ZBA case number 19-14, which is a variation to allow a fence in a required front yard. I need to go to my agenda, sorry. The variation is, the applicant has applied for a variation to section 5-3-4H1F1 to allow the construction of a wood fence in the required front yard in front of the building line. And the applicant is Wesley and Bojena Dizera at 509 Greco Court in Prospect Heights. Director Peterson. Actually, we're going to...
We have to open the public
We
hearing
do.
first and swear people.
Got it. So I'd like a motion, please, to open the public hearing on application number ZBA 19-14.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So if you're here this evening to speak to the case, I can swear everybody in at the same time. Just need to stand. Okay,
And if you,
Yeah.
and if you swear in, you do or don't.
that's fine. Do you swear that the testimony you will be giving tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Okay. So then when you do eventually come, if you choose to present or speak this evening, you just need to give us your name and address for the record. Okay, so Director Peterson.
Really quickly, last year, staff noticed the 6-foot wood fence in the required front yard, which is not permitted by the zoning code. The maximum height of fences in a front yard is 3 feet and must be open to the public. Staff spoke with the applicant. It was late in the year, so we agreed that in the springtime, either the fence would be removed or an application for the zoning would come in. This spring, we met with the family owners and advised them of the same. Subsequently, they applied for the zoning permit to allow the fence. That's what the application is about, and that's why we're here this evening.
Okay. So if the applicant would like to come forward this evening and... Yes, I do. Great, thank you. And again, all you need to do is state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Wesley Dizera, and I live on the 509 Greco Court, Prospect Heights, 60070.
Thank you.
Just to be frank with it, you know, we are newcomers in the neighborhood, new blood, as you called it, whatever. We moved in like 3 years ago, and we're trying to do some improvements. The property that we bought was in a bad shape. Bad is it's not even good enough word. It was in terrible shape, especially on the exterior. Let me put it this way. We cut down 18 trees just the last year. And it's not just for the heck of it, you know. It's because it wasn't safe for my house and my neighbor's house. For doing that, we cleared out a lot of space. That showed up that we already had existing fence that is in a paperwork that comes up to the other front of the other property. Making the story short, we tried to save it. It wasn't savable, so we have to rebuild it. So now what we have, we rebuilt the fence exactly in the same spot that it has been for past, God knows, it takes for the wooden fence, you got a building permit showing it here, but my guess would be like 15, 20 years to deteriorate completely beyond the point of repair. So the fence has been there, but it has been overgrown with the tuwi trees, and it's just garbage, So we clean it up, and we put it exactly how it has been for the past at least 15 years. And we planted the new lilac trees on it, and you have the pictures of it. My point is like, I understand that it's not up to the code. And I feel sorry about it, to be honest, I mean, we didn't mean to play against the village or whatever, against the rules, just replaced what it has been out there already, existing for years and years. Nobody is complaining. And honestly, within 2-3 years, when the lilac trees are going to grow up, you're barely going to see the other fence anyways, Besides what we put in the letter, it gives us a great cushion against the other winds and snow. We are one of unique, like inland lots, where the side of the property is the back of my neighbor, meaning his corner lot is meeting my front yard. If I have it wide open, pretty much my neighbor is going to put up the grill in the front of my house. I don't like it. If that's the case, that I have to take it down, I have to remodel or re-modify it, that's fine. I'm not, it's not the stone that I have to leave alone. That's fine. I'm just saying it has been out there it's not something that we came out with idea to do. It has been out there for years and years already. So we're not changing neighborhood. We came in a neighborhood for one and simple reason, to have a peace and quiet, especially with the neighbors or whatever. Nobody's complaining, everybody's happy. We put up so much work and so much money into having our yard redone completely, So it's great improvement for community, Everybody's happy, and everybody, whoever I see around, unless somebody's got questions about it, everybody's happy about it. Like, hey, you know what? This looks like 10 times better than it's been for years and years, So that's my case, and I'll leave it like this.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead then to your point and see if there's anyone here this evening that would like to speak to this case. If you'd like to speak, you're welcome to come up and just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Dorothy Babco. I'm at 502 Grego, so I'm like just a couple doors.
Your first name again?
Dorothy.
Dorothy, and your last name?
Babco, B-O-B-C-O.
Thank you, Dorothy.
I'm at 502 Grego, which is across the street and about 2 houses down. I just wanted to ask for clarification. Are you talking about, okay, I know you've got a fence up there now, and it's true, it's the backyard meets your front yard from the neighbor. Were you intending on putting an additional fence in?
No.
Oh, then I have no problem.
I'm just talking about what is out there right now.
No, I have no problem. I thought you wanted to build another fence in the front yard.
But you are not the neighbor that is between him and the fence, correct? Great, thank you, Dorothy. Okay. Anyone else here this evening that would like to speak? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alan Kossoff, 11 East Leon, Prospect Heights. And I'm very happy with the improvements I've seen with my neighbor. I did have some concerns of my own regarding some of the work that was being done, only because the vacant lot that is behind my house, which is a subject of another matter that I can discuss after this case is closed, is an area where water pools. And so I was a little concerned about some of the regrading that was being done in your yard. And so I had put a call into the city and just asked them to, see if there was something, that was right or wrong, because I was just concerned about some issues with, possibly water being an issue of pooling even more than it would. So I did bring that to the attention of the city. I went to go take a look at the fence issue, and I looked at it from both angles, and I think it makes complete sense. It is a very weird layout right there with the corner for the home that's on Leon Lane. The backyard is literally the front yard of that other house, and it's a weird setup, but I can see where they would want to have some privacy issues there to kind of separate the two properties, and I don't really feel that it deteriorates from the commonality that's everywhere else in the neighborhood, so I wouldn't be against the fence issue.
Great, thank you, Alan. So if you'd like to provide additional testimony, you need to come back up to the podium, please. Thank you.
Just to clear up here again with the neighbors or so, what we did this year was complete reseeding of the yard.
So you know what I would suggest? So we'd like to keep the comments tonight directed at the board,
Okay,
number one.
I'm sorry.
And I'd say let's try to keep it on topic in regards to the fence. If you
Yeah.
would want to talk to your neighbors about grading and seeding and tree removal, like
Well,
we can
in
do
that
that.
case, I don't have any.
Yeah, so,
Okay, thank you.
it's okay. But while you're here, though, I'd say, is anyone else here to speak to this case this evening? Okay, so,
He needs to be sworn in.
right, so why don't, we'll take the testimony from your other neighbor, so you can sit down for a second,
Thank you.
please. So, sir, if you would want to come forward, please. So I'm going to swear you in this evening. So do you swear that the testimony you will be giving will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so now if you could just please give us your name and address for the record.
Syed Hussain, Husain, 1 East Leon Lane.
Great, thank you.
I saw the fence and it looks good. I mean, beauty-wise, it's okay. I don't know about the safety or security concern about the police. Otherwise, it's okay with me. I don't have any problem.
Great, thank you. Okay. So should we have that?
Yep.
Okay, great.
There's no other.
Right, so there's no one else here this evening who would like to present? Okay, great. So, sir, why don't you come back up, and then it'll give the commissioners an opportunity to ask you a few questions. Okay. So before we get started with our questions and comments, I guess I just had a few thoughts. So it sounds like, based on the information presented this evening by staff, that you did not have a permit to put the fence up.
I did not.
Okay. And going through your hardship letter, it talks about replacing an existing fence,
Yes.
which I think is interesting, because if you look at the plat of survey you provided, the fence that you replaced actually isn't even on your property. It's on your neighbor's property. So, in theory, the neighbor would need a fence permit, because the fence you installed, or the fence you replaced, let's say that, I don't know where the new fence is installed, because obviously I don't have a survey of that, but the existing fence that was removed was not on your property, it was on your neighbor's property. So as far as trying to replace an existing structure, that was actually your neighbor's fence. And as far as your property being unique, there are at least 3 or 4 lots right on your street, right in front of you, that have that same exact condition, with your side yard facing your neighbor's rear yard. And all of those neighbors have used landscaping as screening, just as you did, too, between you and the neighbor to your other side. So I think the screening, the landscaping that's been planted in your neighborhood seems to be the norm that the neighbors are using to provide that screening. So as a board, we do rely on the standards for a variation to be met, and there are a number of conditions here that are not met. So I'm going to open it up for questions from the commissioners, but again, based on these criteria, your request would not meet what's needed for a variance. So let's go ahead and open it up for questions.
I have a question for Director Peterson. Do we have a survey of where the new fence was installed? Does that enclose, has that been provided at all?
There was a building permit or a fence permit application that was submitted back in May,
I believe so.
end of May, that had the fence shown for the side and rear yards, the new fence that went
Yeah.
in, that you were getting the permit after the fact for.
Yeah,
And
which I admit, because to make the story short, I am a contractor, I'm the other building owner as well. From the point of fixation over the weekend with the friends and family, turn up for the rebuilding. But I admit, I'll pay the fine, not a problem.
that it was held, and then subsequently, we are trying to relocate that the application and the plat, so at this, as of today, we have not seen it, or found it. I know he did turn it in, I talked to him the day he turned the application and paperwork in. We've had a number of, a lot of work, and hopefully it didn't get put into another file, but we are searching for it. So, but he did follow through and did apply for the permit after the fact for the rest of the fence.
And just out of curiosity, if I could ask one more question, if this was the neighbor on the corner that was applying for this fence, would that fence be allowable on a corner lot shaped as such?
No, it would not. The fence on that corner lot would have to terminate at the front line of the residence and then go in about 30 feet and then jog back out to the building line. So the city code requires corner side yards, which would, I believe that's 15 Leon at that point, would require, if they had a fence at that location, to match up with the front line of the house and then step it out a little bit. There is heavy shrubs on that property, on both Leon, 15 Leon and on the 509 Grego side. So in effect, there is natural vegetation that creates a barrier. It
There
exists.
has been there is not existing. I mean, we took everything down, you know? That's
On your neighbor's property.
On your neighbor's
on the
property.
neighbor's property, yeah.
Yeah, so, but to answer your question, would they have done a fence going all the way out to the front property line? No. In a search of the city records for both Leon, the Leon property and Grego Court, we have no record of a fence permit ever being by any owner at that time,
Oh,
which leads us to believe that that fence may have predated the city. Okay, so that's why we don't have any other backup with it, but we did do the search of the files.
And repair, replacement of non-conforming structures would always require a permit and being brought up to existing code, correct?
That is correct.
Is there any grandfather law, like, that has been out there, it needs to be like it has been? Or-
That is the question that the Commissioner Mellon just asked, is in a replacement of a non-conforming, which that fence would have been, would it have to have been brought up? In the city's code as it was written and adopted in 1976, any new fences would have to meet the new setbacks and new requirements. So based on the fact that we don't have a record of a fence ever permit being in, it leads us to believe it predated. So if you would have come in for a permit, we would have had this discussion, and we would have
I wouldn't
talked
have
about
to spend all that money.
alternatives. So that,
Right, which would have been the same discussion if his neighbor would have asked for a fence.
correct, if
right.
the neighbor at 15 Leon would have done the fence or went to replace it, we would have had the same discussion at that time.
Commissioners, any other questions or concerns?
Just one other comment. I think one of the reasons that the code is written that the 6-foot fence and a solid fence isn't allowed in the front yard is also a safety issue. The fact that it's just right adjacent to your driveway, you know, for people maybe on bikes or walking, should have adequate notice of a car coming out of your driveway. And I know that you mentioned you're a family of 5 and multiple cars. So that's one of the reasons that I think visually they want to keep things open next to a driveway. And the visual barriers, I think, as has been mentioned, are handled with landscaping, which the city doesn't regulate. So any kind of solid structure is what the city has to, promote that safety also.
Okay.
But I do commend you on all the work that you've done for, bringing for improving the property.
I'll make one comment. I do concur with Chairman Dash as far as that was one of the kind of questions that I had as far as I'm not a civil engineer, but I am a contractor. And I noticed right off the bat that fence definitely wasn't on your property. It's minutely off your property, and that is that was the neighbor's fence. And it does, it was illegal non-conforming back when it was installed, and as far as, and I do concur that it is a safety issue for people pulling out of a driveway and or bikes or pedestrian traffic.
Okay, other questions or comments?
Actually, I have a comment, before you guys get on to it. With a great respect, this is what you got when you get a property, and you think that everything is up to the code, but it's not. Just to be honest, we didn't mean to break the law or break the rules or whatever. My just one comment is like, fence has been out there for at least 15 years, and how come the village didn't get on the previous owner to get it straight up somehow? I mean, it has been for the wooden fence to deteriorate. It takes serious amount of time, at least 15 years. For the way, I'm not saying that I did, that this is good or whatever. I understand where this is all going, But point is like, how come the village never come up to the previous owner and have it straight up? With me buying a property, having not fence in the front yard, I will never put up the other front fence, the fence where it has not been,
As I stated previously, there were no...
Besides, I'm sorry to interrupt you, besides knowing my previous owner, that he's been really difficult for the village, is that the point?
No. Here's the situation that comes up.
Yeah.
There was a new fence put up. There was no permit on file. Obviously, there had been work done. We discussed that. We discussed it. We looked at what the ordinances were. Because we had no record of a fence, we don't have there at the time, and there's a picture in there of the Google Earth from 2017.
We didn't have the records of the fence, but the fence has been out there for 15 years.
Can I please finish?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. We also then took to the next one. I did a Google imagery from 2017, which was the most recent, that shows no fence, just shrubbery line in that location. It was part of the packet that I gave you, and it was an example in here. So the images that we had, the fact that there was no permit on, we have a new construction of a new fence that doesn't meet the code in the front yard, I came and talked to you about it and gave you the options, correct, and informed you. I can't speak for previous directors, but, that is the issue that came up.
My point, I understand where we at right now. The point is, it's not my word against your word. You have the plate of survey that I was given at the time of my closing that clearly shows the fence. And I know by the fact, you don't have to believe me, the fence has been out there, it has been overgrown so badly that you couldn't see it, and that's why you don't get to see it on your picture. That's the whole point. What is going to help with the whole situation or not, doesn't matter. I'm just clearing the air, this is what is happening. There has been existing fence. That's what shows up on the plate of survey. That's why they put a stamp on the legal paper. The plate of survey has been already certified company, okay? It's not somebody that just draws the line and says, hey, here's the house, here's the... No, that's where the stuff is.
So I don't think
Would
anyone's
that be-
arguing that they
Yeah,
would, right, so,
with that being said, my point is like, how come the village, besides that you couldn't see it over the overgrown, whatever you call it, okay, doesn't mean that it is legal.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
As a contractor, what is one of the first things you do when you move into a town or you do work in a town?
I bought a house in as-is condition.
But when you go in to do work as a contractor in another town and you're doing work in a municipality, what is one of the first things you're
I
required
go
to
to the
do?
village. Yeah,
So there was never a permit issued for the work, correct?
I admit it, and I said I will pay the penalty. I don't have a problem with it, okay?
Can I make a comment?
Anyways, just
Certainly.
make it
At-
short,
at-
we're going nowhere, yeah.
At
yeah.
closing,
Sure.
your attorney should have instructed you that that fence is not on your property. And
Okay.
actually, the neighbor could go after you for criminal damage to his property. So you replaced the fence without a permit, and it's not even your fence.
Okay,
I'm a contractor. The first thing you do is.
I'm
pull
a criminal. Thank you, sir.
no. So
All right,
again,
thank you.
just, I think, I'm gonna,
Anyways.
we'll see if there's any other commissioners with questions, but again, the process that we go through, again, it's not a subjective process.
Sure.
There are very clear criteria in regards to what the board is supposed to take into consideration
respect, yeah.
to grant a variance. And based on the report we have in front of us, the application doesn't meet the standards for a variation. So then we look at your hardship request, which is part of the standards for variation. And again, there are neighbors with, literally across the street from you, kitty corner in both directions that have the same exact lot configuration with you and that have screened their front yards from their neighbors' side yards using landscaping. So, and again, to Commissioner Sayward's point, there are city codes for a reason. And so we've seen your application, we've read your hardship letter, and so now it will be up to the commissioners to determine if they feel that
Okay.
we should vote in favor or not. So commissioners, any other questions or comments? Okay, so then you could be seated, sir.
Sure.
And I'm going to ask, please, for a motion to close the public hearing on application number ZBA 19-14.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay. So I'd like, please, a motion to receive into the public record the staff review of compliance of this application with the zoning standards as presented by staff this evening, and to make these standards a part of the official record for the application.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. So I guess, commissioners, any other discussion that needs to take place? I know that as we take these cases into consideration, approving variances can often then lead to other applicants seeking these same variations. So I know sometimes that, obviously we try to avoid opening that can of worms per se. Any other comments or concerns or questions?
I think that you're right. It's difficult that we don't want to set a precedent by approving one case if we don't really feel that the hardship is there. So I think we have to look at each individual case, but in this case, I don't see the hardship, or I don't see a unique enough situation here that would warrant a variation.
Okay, so then, let's go ahead and, I gotta find my agenda, sorry, for the motion, here it is. So let's just keep it phrased the way it's, the description of the request is presented this evening. So I'd like a motion, please, like I can say it in the affirmative, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so a motion to approve the application's request for a variation to section 5-3-4H1F1 to allow the construction of a wood fence in the required front yard in front of the building line.
I think we need to add the 6-foot wood fence.
Okay, to allow, okay, so the application is, so the variation request, excuse me, so the applicant is asking for a variation to section 5-3-4H1F1 to allow the construction of a 6-foot wood fence in the required front yard in front of the building line.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, so Jen, would you please do a roll call vote?
Commissioner DeGraff,
No.
Commissioner Mellon,
No.
Commissioner Saywert,
No?
Commissioner Tamman,
No.
Commissioner Kempa,
No.
Chairman Dash.
No. Okay, so it may have been explained to you, we are just we are a recommending body. So this case will still go in front of the city council.
It is tentatively will be tentatively scheduled for August 26th. There is no city council meeting on the 12th of August. That is the normal night that they're meeting. Wesley, if you would like to come in, we can talk about this more, you're more than welcome to come in, and we can talk before the meeting. I think okay, and we can talk about that. But this will be on the August 26th agenda, but, and then we can talk from there.
Okay, so there are no other cases of new business this evening. Director Peterson, any communications? Or you would like to talk about the previous application updates?
Real quickly, Lutheran Church Charities, they received full approvals at Monday evening's last city council meeting. Sterry Trucking had their first reading. They will be also coming back. The council asked them to look at some other potential conditions, and we are working on the private property enforcement agreement, which was one of the conditions of the PZBA. So that will be coming up either the 26th of August or the first meeting in September. Everclean Car Wash on Rand Road, they got their permits. They had their foundation or footing inspections today, so that's moving along. 307 Parkway, the permit has been issued. An issue came up today, or actually this week. The ZBA had a case in 2018 for 7 East Leon. The case was approved, the permits were issued. The project's about a little over halfway into its life expectancy, and we were notified this week that the owners are not going to finish it due to financial considerations and family issues. We are working with just listen up, folks. We are working with the owners, the attorneys, and everybody involved to get this. We have certain powers and rights, but at this point in time, the banks are moving forward on the property, and there's nothing else that we can do other than manage it. I can't say that, I don't know. We've been in communications with the owners. They are working with us to do what they can, but the fact of the matter is they don't have the resources to finish this property. So just so you're aware, so you don't hear it in the rumor mill, you don't hear this. The work that they were doing on the inside of the house was absolutely beautiful. They were master craftsmen, they're this, but for whatever reason, it's not going to be completed by the current owner. We do have some provisions that require us to work directly with their mortgage companies and their banks from the beginning, and they can't legally transfer it without a commitment from them to keep it maintained and kind of get it up to code. So I did need to bring that to everyone's attention tonight because I knew it would be a topic of interest to the commission and to the neighborhood.
Dr. Peterson, what was the address on that one?
7 East Leon. They got a variation for a small encroachment of a front porch into the front yard setback. And then it was a new house, and it was beautiful.
And they didn't put that front porch on
They haven't got to that point, like it.
No, they got something entirely different going on that front here.
But,
fence. It's
And-
not what they said they got permission to do.
Well-
Plus, it wasn't tear down, not a tear back.
Just, this is not an open discussion point, folks. This is a letter of, and, what was the question?
Right, so thank you for communicating. Should we maybe stick around after the meeting to?
We could have a slight discussion. There's no business. It's not an agenda-sized
Right.
item, so we can have a
Right.
discussion about that if it may be. There will be no meeting of the PZBA on the 22nd. We have no applications on file.
So no August 22nd.
No August 22nd meeting at this point in time. The good news is people are starting to move into the first building at River Trails condominium, Building 13, the one that was able to be remodeled and didn't have to be tore down. So we can get 23 families back in that were affected by the fire last year. So within 1 year and 2 weeks after the fire, those folks will be back in their house. The targeted timeframe to get the other folks starting to back in is around Christmas in the first building, and then 1 month subsequent for the other two. So hopefully by next March, all the folks will be back into their residences. So that's moving along, and construction has started at the Piper Building, the 150,000 square foot industrial building on Piper Lane by McShane Construction. So there's a lot of earth being moved and a lot of work being done out there. So that's a quick update. With that, I have no.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes.
How are we doing as far as timeline for Thornton's for opening?
Thornton's is running about 5 weeks behind schedule. They got caught up with weather and have lost all their rain dates, and they got caught up in some equipment delays. So they're targeting, the original target was supposed to be August 1st. I'm guessing we're going to be Labor Day or a little after.
Thank you.
Okay, any other communications from the commissioners? Okay, then with no further business, do I hear a motion to adjourn the July 25th, 2019 Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals meeting?
So
I'll make
moved.
that motion.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.